Hi guys, and welcome to Hijax747, a channel dedicated to Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, a game in development by Visionary Realms. If you have any questions, go to pantheonmmo.com. Today I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the tenets of the game. It's basically 10 things that they're kind of promising, or kind of a guide to exactly how the game should be developed. I feel like it's a really good thing to refer back to, because I feel like in development sometimes, as well as even doing anything I do, I get sidetracked or down a rabbit hole, kind of lose focus on the first vision of what I'm working on. So I think having this is cool. When they come up with a new idea, maybe they can run it through that matrix. It's almost like the constitution of Pantheon. And so I wanted to go over it with you guys. Some of you guys might be new to this community and new to following this game. So this will be a great opportunity for you to kind of just hear them without having to go read them and think about them yourself. For you guys who've been here a little longer, just give you some food to think about, maybe something that's so, I feel like it's overlooked a lot. I think it's kind of important, if not really important, as far as keeping our eye on the prize as we get closer to Alpha, and at least hearing about Fairthale. I can't wait to hear about Fairthale. Anyway, I am going to just start out here with, and this is in no order, they're not numbered, it's just bullet points, but I think some of these should be grouped together. I'll mention them as I go. I'm not going to group them right now because I want to keep them as they are on the page. But the first is an awareness that content is king. The team itself understands that without quality content, the game is useless. Any game must be first and foremost fun and engaging. So it's a good way to start out. It's a bold statement in the beginning. In an interview with GameIndustry.biz from September 2017, I have Brad McQuaid quoted as saying, "To me, a proper MMO is more than a game. It's a world. I want to be immersed. I want to escape into a fantasy or sci-fi world. MMO developers are making the very, very early foundations of a holodeck." So great reference to Star Trek. I love the idea of a holodeck for sure. But I think other than that, that's kind of what we're all looking to do. You know, I've played around with VR a little bit myself. The biggest problem I have is I can't see what's in front of me or around me. And if you guys have watched Next Gen or Voyager, and it's probably another one, since it's only two I've really gotten heavily into. Definitely a lot of holodeck action. I could do without the 1930s theme over and over again, but I know those guys are into it. Anyway, I'd like to be on that away mission, you know, to be immersed. I think that's what we're all looking for, is to be immersed, not to run away from our lives, but just to become part of a fantasy world and enjoy a different world around us. So I don't want to get too far off topic. Let me keep going here. So tenet number 2, or bullet point 2 on this, is a requirement that classes have identities. No single player should be able to do everything on their own. What a breath of fresh air that is. I know it's something we've talked about before. I know there's a lot of content out there talking about it, but it's extremely important. Not only is it boring for me as a player to be able to do everything, you know, I can heal myself, I can, I can crowd control, I do amazing DPS, and I can face tank bosses. What's the fun in that? You know, I'm so OP that it's just how many loot pinatas can I pop? And there are certain games that do that well. I feel like Diablo's a good example. What are the other two? I played a little bit of Torchlight and Path to Exile, kind of the similar. So those games, I don't mind a loot pinata. I don't mind that blow up thing. But for a game like this, I want to be challenged. I want it to last. I don't want to find myself, you know, I guess I should say there's a limited time span that I'll play a game like Diablo or Path of Exile. I know some of you guys love it and they get it, but I have a limited amount of time that I can play that, whereas a really immersive MMORPG I can play for years. So I'm going to keep going. The third point is a belief that game economies should be predicated on delaying and minimizing item value deflation. All right, so delaying and minimizing item value deflation. So I have a quote I'm going to read here in a minute, but I guess just for I'm sure most of you guys get this, but in case you don't, what happens is as the game is out longer and longer, people are going to collect more and more money, whether it be credits, coins, whatever. They're going to collect more of these things, and they're just going to store them in their inventory. And if you don't have a way for them to funnel that out, everyone just becomes richer. So that things that used to cost $10, now since they have millions of dollars, it costs $1,000. And new players that jump into that are blown away by the prices, because they're still killing things and getting 3 copper or whatever. So and that goes the same way with items as well. You get this super special sword from a dungeon or whatever. Well, if someone can run a really good camp, like if a guild just camps this place and they end up looting 50 of them, if it's a non if there aren't any sanctions or whatever on the piece itself, or any restrictions, now there's 50 out in the market, the price is definitely going to go down. Or if it's easily obtainable, everyone's got one, so now there's competition, so now you're undercutting competition, and eventually the value of the sword gets lost. So I'm going to read a quote from Pantheon's website itself. It says, having a player-driven economy is an important part of Pantheon, and we want a heavy focus on player-to-player trading. Items need to come in and out of the economy regularly. Keeping items scarce and adding item sinks to give reason to donate or sacrifice your items will be important to the game, with some exceptions: quest items, epic items, crafter customized items. Almost everything in the game will be tradable. We want exotic items found in one end of the world to be very valuable elsewhere. It's really cool. I love the idea of I know it's kind of a side note in there, but the crafter customized ideas, I love the fact that we will be able to customize, take something we got from a boss mob. Let's say it's a breastplate. I take it to a crafter. He can customize it, and then no longer is that tradable in the world, but it's locked to me. But it does have slight stat increases. I believe that's how that would work. That's the way Voice of the Terminus kind of explained it. I know they're not developers, and we'll see what actually comes out, but I think it's an awesome idea. I do have a video here from the GS2 interview with Brad here, so I'm going to put that on for a minute, and we'll get to our next bullet point.
Too, right, Chris? There's none of this. You get this really cool blade, and then one level later it's useless, and you replace it with something else. We want that iconic epic feel, right? Where you really take pride in the item, where you got it, the context in which you received it.
The next tenet is a commitment to a style of play that focuses on immersive combat and engaging group mechanics. Brad said in January 2014 in an interview with MMORPG, you will see a return to having defined roles per class, and you'll want these roles in your group. There will be healers, tanks, DPS classes, buffers, pullers, and crowd control. How you make up your group is entirely up to you, and that's where the strategic element comes into play. Maybe you can try a non-conventional group to see if you can make it work, or maybe you prefer to do a classic style approach and stick to having a little of everything. We expect our players are going to be the ones that are figuring out the strategies that work best. I apologize for the gardener outside if you can hear that. But what's great about this is, for me, is that I feel like he has a certain amount of respect for us as players. He's giving us the options to, or the team at VR are giving us the options to figure out what group works best for what engagement, or give us the freedom to know that we're not idiots. We can figure it out. We can and not only that, to have the fun. Think about like a fight that's really easy with the typical 6 group standard that they're going out. But maybe we want to all go do it as as necros, or we want to all we want to see if we can do it with 6 tanks. I think that'd be fun. I think it's cool that they respect us enough to give us those options. The next topic is an understanding that a truly challenging game is truly rewarding. I've found in my own life that this is the most. It's just the truth. Anything that I have to work really hard for, I'm sure you guys feel the same way, but anything we have to work hard for ultimately gives us the most satisfaction, fulfillment, joy. I did pull up a quote here from Thomas Paine, one of our founding fathers. It says, "The harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph." Super sweet way to say it. I like those quotes when they keep them succinct. because I tend to go off the rails a little bit. So anyway, the next bullet point is an expectation that with greater risk will come greater reward. I feel like this should be lumped with the one above it. Yes, but greater risk should come with greater reward. This does kind of touch on something else, and that's that there's one down below that I'm going to kind of pull together with this one, but that the greater risk, the greater reward. You wouldn't want to have a world where some guys spent a lot of risk trying to get something, and other guys just don't really put a lot of effort in and they get the same thing, right? It would piss you off. Well, it would piss me off if I was the one putting everything on the line to get this reward and have some guy come in all lazy, not spend a lot of time on it. And yes, there's some RNG there, but not everyone that's a slacker, if you will, should get the same reward that I am by putting all my chips on the table. So I'll talk about that or show you which one that lumps with in a bit here. But the next one is an understanding that player involvement is required for progression. All actions or lack thereof should have consequences. Positive action should be rewarded. Apathy or lack of action should not be rewarded with bonuses. This is an interesting one for me to throw in there. Oh my God, the gardener. This is an interesting one for me. The understanding that player involvement is required for progression. I guess this is kind of lumped in with what I just talked about as far as the greater risk, greater reward. I didn't, I feel like these are all kind of in the same vein, and I hope you guys feel that way too. Maybe I'm missing something here, but I feel like those all three are kind of trying to get borders around the same idea. I did pull up a quote from Anthony Bourdain. He has passed away, but I enjoyed his shows. I enjoyed his attitude, and I think what he says here is a good way to put it for me. It kind of wraps up my idea on it. So he says, bad food, and obviously we're not talking about food, we're talking about games, but bad food is made without pride by cooks who have no pride and no love. Bad food is made by chefs who are indifferent and who are trying to be everything to everybody, who are trying to please everyone. Bad food is fake. Food that shows fear and lack of confidence in people's ability to discern or make decisions about their lives. So, I feel like everybody needs to take responsibility for whatever they decide to do or not to do. I feel like that should be the way it is in life as well. I think the people who risk the most should be rewarded the most. I think the guys who spend the time putting in the time should get greater rewards than the guy who plays for an hour a day. I think you guys get where I'm going with that, so I'm going to move on. But to think anything else would be, I don't know, just doesn't seem right to me. But anyway, the next one is a belief that meaningful character progression will always involve a player increasing in both power and prestige. So this is super important too. I feel like every level, I want to feel more like a badass, just more and more and more. And I feel like that used to be more of a concern to me than the next point, which was prestige. So he talks about both power and prestige. Prestige is how you feel about yourself. This isn't a definition from it, but to me, it impresses the fact that it's how I feel about myself. Do I feel like a badass? Not only do I kick other things, not only am I doing good DPS or healing more or whatever, but do I feel like I've grown in that last level? That's the kind of question I would like to ask myself. Anyway, I do have a video here for you guys, and I'll get back to the next one after this.
We're speaking a lot about philosophy, and sometimes it's harder to implement philosophy and have it actually work. I mean, I don't think that every MMO out there was developed where the developers and the designers are like, well, we're just gonna race people to the end. Mm-hmm. That would be kind of a sad use of resources. You have all these other zones, low level, mid level, and they're never used. But unfortunately, what happens is this perception pops up that supposedly all the fun's at the end, and then the game, and this is where I do hold the designers a little bit responsible. The game will allow almost unmitigated power leveling, so that you can skip content and just zip to the end where supposedly all the fun is. We're committed to the journey, and we're committed to have compelling content at low, mid, and high levels.
The next tenet is a mindset that some degree of downtime should be part of the game, ensuring players have time to form important social bonds. This has yet to be seen, and I think a lot of this will be able to tweak in alpha. But again, the mindset that some degree of downtime, this is going to, I've seen some arguments with this on the forums. I think a certain amount of downtime is great, obviously, but too much downtime is a little laborious. I think for me, I was trying to think of like, what is that number for me? I know we're going to tweak that in alpha. What is that number for me? I've been playing a lot of P99 lately, and I would say that the clarity buff you get, not clarity 2, I haven't had that enough to, on enough constantly to be able to really figure that one out. But regular old clarity on you is about the most downtime I'd want to have. Because when you get high level, like let's say I have a druid that's getting up there, even with clarity, you're sitting down for a while. It's a great time to talk and socialize with each other. I'm really happy it's in the world, and we'll obviously tweak that more in alpha. We get a lot of people's feedback. Guys, remember, it's not supposed to be comfortable. You're not supposed to just be like, oh, I don't want any downtime, or it's too long, because we could all just say it's too long, it's too long, it's too long. But in the reality, we got to remember that that's the part where we get to meet each other. So the next bullet point is a belief that an immersive world requires intelligent inhabitants. Excuse me. That the AI they're putting together is one of the big reasons I'm excited about this game. I want to have, when I go to this one particular, any particular dungeon, I'm not going to know exactly how the boss is going to react. I'm not going to know exactly how many mobs are going to spawn with the boss. He may call out reinforcements. He might run away. That doesn't sound so fun, really, because then I've spent all that time getting there and he runs away. It would be terrible. But he may have different things he wants to do. He might be a caster versus being a tank. Might decide not to throw any spells at you, what have you. So it's going to be amazing. I can't wait to see more about it. Again, a lot of this is somewhat theory crafting because we don't have a working model. I'm really hoping that Project Farathel will answer a lot of our questions that we're having to speculate about. I do have this little bit of talking point in this video, and we'll get on to the next tenet.
What players can expect through, for example, the disposition system, camps are not going to be a snooze fest. You're not going to be able to fight your way in and set up a camp and they just go on autopilot as you kill the same mobs. They do the same things for hours and hours and hours. The disposition system, one of the ways we're going to use it is there's always a chance that a mob could spawn with a certain disposition. And some of those dispositions may be extremely disruptive to your flow. So that's one way that we want to spice up.
The next tenet is an understanding that faction and alignment should be an integral part of interacting with the world and its citizens. How important is that? I love this. Being a race war server guy, I need my own starting city. I need to look around and see what my people are like. I need to see what my architecture's like, all that good stuff. I think originally Brad said that, could have been Joppa, but it said that they were only going to do 3 starting zones, and they decided to spend the time to make each race its own starting zone / city. God, what an amazing decision that was. I don't want to be spawned into the world with, if I'm a dark mirror, I don't want to be spawned in the world with trolls next to me, or I know we don't have trolls, but you know what I mean. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. We should all have our own starting areas. I think they realize that. I think they made the right step there. But really important that this faction and alignment, not only for the beginning of the game, but it just plays into what I want to get into this game. And I'm really hoping there are race war servers. I'm really excited about it, actually. I hope I can be competitive. I'm almost 40 now, so I'm afraid some hotshot 20-year-old's going to come out and just wreck my face, taking dirt naps. Anyway, so the next tenet is a sincere commitment to creating a world where a focus on cooperative play will attract those seeking a challenge. Yeah, I think that sums up all of us, right? A sincere commitment to creating, this is more like a promise from them, a sincere commitment to creating a world where a focus on cooperative play will attract those seeking a challenge. You've attracted me. I am seeking a challenge and a focus on cooperative play. So, nice work. Next one is a belief that the greatest sense of accomplishment comes when it is shared and earned. I totally agree with that. It really plays into what I was talking about earlier with the harder you work at something, the more value it has to you when you do succeed or you do earn it, or you do. I think it goes right along with that. I think the only twist on this is that as a group, it also works that way. So I've never been in war, and if you have, I sincerely, deeply do appreciate your service. But I've heard that in a war situation or a traumatic situation, if you're with a group of people, you come out with a different bond. You come out with a different shared, I don't want to say camaraderie, but you've bonded at some higher level. And I feel like that happens or did happen when I played EQ. I've played other games. No, I won't say I was bonded with them, but over the years, I've made a lot of friends that are just game friends. I've never actually met them in real life, and it's interesting that we have that bond from years of playing these kind of games. So I do agree with that, and that is the next tenet is an agreement that player levels should be both meaningful and memorable. 100% agree with this. I am not in the camp that wants to get to 50 or 60 or whatever the cap is within 2 days. Not interested at all anymore. I used to be like that. I used to think that was the way to go. Nowadays, if I find a game I really like, I don't want it to end. I don't want to get to max level and be burned out or what have you. So, I take the time to smell the roses. I take the time to look at rocks. I take the time to wander around. Yeah, some people might think it lacks focus, but I do have a good time enjoying the world, looking at all the sights to be seen, and I have a feeling that these guys are going to really put a lot into that, so I feel like I'm going to be a kid in a candy store picking flowers out there. Anyway, there is a Reddit post I found from an AMA with Brad McQuaid from about 5 years ago. I know it's old, but truth is truth. So, sorry if I mentioned your name. Liaris says 5 years ago, is the experience / leveling curve intended to be closer to EQ1 circa Kunark or EQ2 current? And Brad's reply was, we are actually looking at doing less levels with more content and advancement per level. So that seems right up my alley. I'd rather not have 1,000 levels. I'd rather have awesome content, and at each level I ding, I feel more like a badass. So I assume you guys feel the same way. I'm not on an island on that, I'm sure. Anyway, the last tenet is an assertion that player versus environment should involve more than NPCs. Engage the world. I think this is a great tenet. I don't know if they stuck this on the end because they decided to actually move forward with this. But the assertion that player versus environment should involve more than NPCs. That's going to be, your climbing that they've talked about. The fact that the rogue has a rope. The fact that the druid can make a bridge. All the climate restricted areas, you know, where you have to have a certain, you have to be acclimatized to move forward into that place. All the auras that, what do they call them? Auras? You know what I'm talking about. Like gloom, the effects that are around things, you know, gloom and, I don't know them all, and I probably could look them up right now, but I'm not going to. So having the environment affect your mana regen or your health regen or your attack speed or your, you know, all that stuff's going to be amazing. I'm actually questioning, you know, I've heard about it talked about on, you know, speculation in different shows like Voices of Terminus and what have you, but, you know, when my clothes get wet, do I slow down? Does it get heavier? I'm interested to see all that stuff, and I think Project Fairthale was going to give us a great idea of what we're really looking at instead of just speculating on all this stuff. Maybe put some boundaries on some things about what we should expect for right now. Yeah, in the future they could open up all kinds of stuff, but I'd love to see their minimum kind of, here it is. I think we're going to be blown away. I also wanted to talk a little bit about Bazgrim. I don't know if you guys follow Bazgrim TV. He is, I'll put a link down below, but his alpha video is super informative to me. I loved watching it. I know it's a little old, but I recently had surgery, so I haven't made a video in quite some time, about a month. Anyway, I would definitely highly recommend you check out that alpha video if you haven't. And then other than that, I just want to give a shout out to Pantheon Plus. They're doing a great job. I don't know if you guys have watched their new, first their website where they have a bunch of content. It's all arranged by, you know, if you only want to see content on a cleric, that's all you're going to get. If you only want to see a certain race's content, that's all you're going to get. And the content involved is not just video, but it's articles, it's podcasts. One that I hadn't seen for a long time was Standing in Fire. I just kept missing them. But if you haven't seen any of those or heard any of those Standing in Fire podcasts, you know, it's super good. Anyway, I'm babbling on and on. Thank you guys for watching. I'm going to have updates as much as I can as things go. I don't want to just keep throwing a bunch of content that means nothing. We don't have a lot of information right now. Let's just be honest. We don't have a whole lot to go on. So I'm hoping when Project Fairthale comes out, we'll have a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. But keep being a part of the community. Let's keep the discussions alive, and go check out those links down below if you can. Thank you guys, and subscribe if you haven't. Please let me know if in the comments below if there's things I missed, or maybe things that we should, you know, be bringing up next time. And you guys have a great day. All right, bye-bye.